What is up, guys, and welcome back to Electrix Moto. Today we have the biggest, kind of smallest, baddest mini on the market from Eride Pro. Built on a trusted platform, more power, more range, everything that we've been asking for in the minis. Today we're gonna go through the entire detailed breakdown of everything on this bike, all the stuff that's new, and what you can expect if this is the next bike on your list. Before we jump into the video and start talking about all the new stuff that came on the Eride Pro Mini, I want to mention for the month of February, if this is a bike or any bike on our website that you're interested in, you get $150 in free parts by using the code Uncle Sam. I will put that down in the description so you can click on it, go check out the bikes, and use that for any parts that you see on our site. So the first place I want to start is probably the place that's most important for you, and that is the power and battery. The previous Mini had a 60 volt, 30 amp hour battery. The new Mini comes equipped with a 72 volt, 35 amp hour battery. Now, what that means for you, not only are you getting more amp hours out of your battery, but you're also running a more efficient 72 volt system. So not only will you receive more range from having an additional 5 amp hours of battery life, you will also receive more range because of the voltage that the system runs on. And we all know on these little bikes, especially if you put a full-grown man on them, that they kind of die pretty quick and they're really easy just to be wide open throttle all the time. That was always a problem with our 60 volts, so stepping up to the 72 volt should change some of that for a lot of people depending upon how you intend to ride. All right, so I want to bring you in a little bit for this because we are going to talk about the battery, and this is a huge change that's been made to the Eride platform, and I don't know if this is going to come to all the bikes, but it came to the Mini, so let's take a look at what we have here now. All right, so you have a battery lid that, from my understanding, is a little bit different. I haven't seen this on other bikes yet, where you can just kind of pull this bad boy off and get it out of the way. Now, this is the good part. Your display now reads a percentage versus just a bar indicator. That's something that all the bikes had in the past, was just a 20 to 40, a 0 to 20, a 40 to 60, just a basic range of battery life. This gives you a number, makes it a lot easier to understand. But more importantly than all of that, your battery is now just one clip. You just have one connector for your battery, and that plugs directly in, and it has this little metal piece that clips in, and your comms cable is no longer connected directly to your battery. Your comms cable is actually connected to the plug for the battery, which makes things nice because you don't have to have two plugs going into the battery anymore. You only have the one. This is a major upgrade from Eride. I hope they do this across all of their bikes, but for now, it is only on the Mini, and plugging your battery in is much easier, and it really just feels more secure all the way around. So we spun the bike around to give you a somewhat better angle of the pulley system, because this is another upgrade that Eride did to their 72 volt Mini. The front and rear pulley, they increased their size slightly, giving them the ability to cross match their S model and their 2.0 model belts. So now the S and 2.0 belts will fit the Eride Pro Mini. When previously on the 60 volt, you had a smaller pulley and a smaller belt, and if you had any issues with your Mini in the past, you knew it was a pain trying to find parts or trying to source parts from Eride. This change should just make things smoother and less of a problem when and if something happens to your Mini. All right, so let's get a little nerdy and get deep in the weeds on some of the stuff that most people would probably never notice on their bike, but this is something that does make a big difference on the Mini platform. Previously, the linkage that came in the 60 volt Mini had a single pivot point with 120 millimeters of rear travel. The new linkage allows for 160 millimeters of rear travel because it has multiple pivot points now in the rear linkage. So for heavier riders or people that are kind of sending their bikes a little bit bigger than I would say what most Minis were intended for, this is going to make all the difference in the world for the plushness of the back end of the bike. So 160 millimeters of travel out of the same shock versus 120 millimeters of travel. It's a huge difference that you're definitely gonna feel if this is a bike that you ride on a consistent basis. All right, so here's another thing that I'm really excited about. Eride Pro is now sending, with all of the Minis, a set of drop brackets from the factory. Anybody that's a full-grown man or a full-grown woman that has ridden these bikes before, you really feel your knees are like up in your elbows, they're getting tangled up in the handlebars, and this solves that problem. This is not something that most manufacturers have any reason to do, but for Eride to take this step, that shows that they understand the market is really not just small kids or small people riding this bike. Okay, so next up is the tires. Everyone in the Moto industry shares the sentiment that almost every single tire you get from the manufacturer is useless. That doesn't ring true in every single case, but for the most part, the tires that you get on these bikes, they suck. What Eride did is they put Kenda Carlsbad tires, both front and rear, on the Mini. This is an actual tire that I would purchase and put on any one of my bikes. I'm extremely impressed that they spent the extra money to have these tires put on this bike directly from the factory, and it's gonna save you having to go out and spend another 80 or 100 bucks for a set of tires and then having to swap them. So I'm gonna give more props to Eride for that, because I think it's a huge thing that a lot of these manufacturers miss, and they did not miss the mark on this one whatsoever. All right, so now let's talk about the handlebar configuration. Nothing has changed from the previous Mini, but if you've never owned one or you've never seen the previous one, then this is all new to you. So you have the digital display on this side, and right now it's in park. In order to get it out of park, you press the park button, and then you have Eco and Sport. I really wish that this was a 3-mode option. At 72 volts and 8 kilowatts, I think it warrants 3 modes. But what I will say is Eride has been notorious for having 2 modes on the S 2.0 and the 3.0, and I've always liked the simplicity of that. If you're gonna have 2 modes though, I would prefer that you just have a toggle switch. It just makes things easier and you don't need this screen, but that's besides the point. So if you wanna put it back in park, you press the park button, you have your reverse that you have to hold, a lowercase r will appear, and then you can go in reverse, your horn button. The horn seems to be muted, which is nice. It's a deeper tone than what has been on these Motos previously, so it's nice that it's just not this winding sound. Up front here, I don't know how well you can see this, but there is a trigger switch on your throttle side that controls your headlight. Now, you still have the same mineral oil brakes with a single piston caliper, nothing changed on that end. And you also have your adjustable fast ace suspension. Both your forks and your shock are fully adjustable with preload, compression, and rebound. So you can tune this a little bit and dial it into your rider weight or the specifics that you like to ride. All right, so before we finish this up, I wanna talk about some of the things in the rear of the bike that are honestly some of my favorite. The swing arm design for the Mini is much different than any of the other bikes. I think, in my personal opinion, it is the most robust swing arm that they've ever built, and putting it on a small bike, maybe that's just where they're starting, maybe that's going to be the future of Eride, having a more robust and dense swing arm. So you also get a 420 chain and a 41 tooth sprocket on this bike. The first company to come out with a 420 chain on one of these Minis was Suron with their Hyper B, and I really wish all of the other major companies would do that. I think RTR and a lot of them are coming around to that 420 chain idea, but it's just the best way to drive this bike. It's more robust, it's stronger, and it's something that should have been that way from the very beginning, but we're here now, and Eride, even on the 60 volt, went out of their way to make sure we got the proper components on the bike, because I think they have a pretty good idea that it's not just gonna be kids riding this bike. This is actually something that will probably get beaten up by full-grown adults on a regular basis. So let's talk about the upgrade path. What's available for this bike? What can you do to this bike? Because it's kind of uncertain, really. It's not a lot of clear direction on that. But what we do know for sure is any of your traditional Warp 9 bar mounts, I'm assuming prickly bar mounts, that have that 4-bolt pattern that go directly into the triple clamp, you can use those, which means you can also use any handlebar that you want. This clamp is a 31.8 millimeter bar mount, so even if you don't want to change the bar mount itself, you just want to change the bars, any Warp 9 bars, prickly bars will fit as long as they're 31.8 millimeters in diameter. Now the seat's a comfortable seat, but I know a lot of people like changing their seat covers. So this is the same exact seat that comes on all the other Eride bikes. They are all the exact same. So if you see an Eride Pro 2.0 seat cover that you like, it will fit the Mini. As far as pegs is something that a lot of people do. I will say that these pegs are the same pegs that come on the SR and pretty much all the bikes now, as well as the 3.0. They don't really need to be changed unless you're doing it for some type of color match style of thing. So you can get any Eride Pro foot peg. It will fit in the bracket as it comes from the factory, so you don't have to make any changes there. And that's pretty much as far as we've gotten on this. On this bike, we plan to build the first Eride Pro Mini Supermoto. We have brand new Supermoto tires that we're gonna put on this bike. We're gonna do some bars, we're gonna do some color matching stuff to kind of make it cool, but that's gonna be the next video. If you guys have any questions about this bike in particular, or you just wanna talk about things, please give the shop a call, drop us a comment, or email us. Remember, for the month of February, you get $150 in free parts for any bike that you buy, $3,500 or more, and this bad boy definitely qualifies. So we will leave the link to all of that stuff in the description so you guys can go check it out for yourself. If you have any questions, let us know, and we'll see you guys on the next one.